Hey, welcome back and thanks for watching. We've got these hydraulic filters here today. This is the AGCO OEM for the GC 1700 series subcompact. Then we've got a Wix and two Baldwin alternatives. I'm going to cut these open. We're going to do the thread pitch gauge on these and check them out and see which one, if any, may be compatible for the 1700 series. And then we're also going to talk a little bit about the GC 2000 series and whether one of these filters might be compatible with those. So stick around. Okay, first thing I'm going to run through here is just the difference between the GC2 XXX series and the 1700 series. And you can see this 426 filter is the one spec for the I'll say, I guess, 2000 series GC. But when you get up to the GC 1700 series, starting with 1705, the spec is this 625 filter. So what I'm not sure is whether the older filter was the M20 1.5 threads, and the new filter, or the new starting with 1700, is 3/4 16, or whether they're both 3/4 16, because I don't have the old filter to compare to. Then if you look at the Amazon listing through Aggregator for this older filter, that doesn't really help either, because this 5/8 inch actual opening is about this what it would be for an M20 opening, hole diameter, I guess, or a 3/4 16 thread. Then what I'm going to do here then is focus on the 1700 series. So here you see I've got the manual open. We've got a couple of specs. The 10 micron spec is shown here, and then of course they show the suction filter spec. We're not going to get into that in this video. And next up here is the thread pitch gauge. This is what I'm going to use here in a moment to show you what the threads look like. First up is just the gauge itself. You can see just side by side the 1.5 versus 16. They're very, very similar threads, even just looking at the gauge as the judge of the difference. Then when you take, this is the OEM filter, and slide that 16 pitch on, you can see it lines up pretty good. But then switch it with the 1.5 and look at the air gaps. There you can see them very clearly, that it's not quite a perfect match to the 1.5, but it's close enough that it would screw on the tractor and really actually tighten down. So I think that's why people have gotten away with using the M20 1.5 filters on the GC 1700 series. Then when it comes to kind of the Wix specs here, the Wix specs, so you can see in the Wix catalog, they've got all of the filters listed here for all the series GCs, and it does show different filter numbers, but you just end up going down this rabbit hole with these WL numbers when you try to cross-reference them. You get the 10349 on Wix, no information available. The 10361, also no information available. So that's, obviously not really helpful. So then you kind of go back to sort of the Amazon search method, and you see all these alt brands, and then you also can get to the point where you see the 10285, which that's the model that some people say they use on their GC 1700 series. But as we've already determined, that's an M20 1.5 thread, and it might physically screw on there, but that is not the right thread orientation for the 1700 series. So you sort of go back to the, some of the other cross references. There's like the NAPA 7089. So here's the Wix 57089, which says it's superseded by the 10285. So then like I got the 10285 and it says SL, not WL. So you can see the SL is the old number. So these batches on Amazon, I guess, are the old numbers. I'm not sure how you get a WL 10285. But just, kind of confirming here you can see this is the SL or WL right from the Wix filter site. And you can see its specifications here, just confirming it's a 20.1.5 size filter. Then the other one is this Baldwin 8902, and that is also, as you can see, we're right here on the Baldwin website. That's also an M20 1.5 filter. It also has the 23 micron rating, so that's not right for the 1700 series. So what you can do, you can kind of go over to the Baldwin site and sort of sort by thread size. And you can see there's other M20 sizes that really are not the right size anyway, as far as physical size of the can. But up here under the 3/4 16, there is a model, the 8908, that is actually rather similar. So we're going to deconstruct that one and take a look. That's one I'm thinking is going to be the better filter for the 1700 series. And then you go over here and look at the specs for that filter, and you can see it's a 9.8 micron. So this looks like it's a pretty close match, or the closest I've seen yet, for matching the GC 1700 series filter requirements. So that's the one I'm really hopeful is going to turn out to be the best. Now, the interesting thing here is you jump over to the NAPA site, and you can see NAPA Gold actually references, they have a part number that references over to the 8908 with two drastically different prices. So something's really, wacky there. They're saying 40013 versus 79, which obviously they're Wix cross-reference part numbers. So I'm not going to buy the NAPAs to go sort of do that cross-reference and figure that out. We're just going to stick with what we have on hand here. But here you can see the WL, the 10013 is in fact a Wix number that you can cross-reference to. And then the same thing over here on the 10079 that you see on the NAPA site. And then digging into that 10079, interestingly, you can see that that's a 3/4 16 thread. So that actually should be a better fit than this 10285 people have said they've used, or the 10013. But again, if that's cross-referenced to the Baldwin 8908, I mean, these numbers are just getting confusing at this point. It's kind of nuts. And then but just the weird thing is in the Wix catalog, it doesn't reference clearly isn't referencing these filters. So unless those old Wix numbers that I wasn't able to look up are 3/4 16 threads, something's up even with the Wix cross-referencing on this. Okay, this is really hard to film. Here I am with the three filters. I've cut them open. Right off the bat, no anti-drain back. None of these filters have an anti-drain back like you would see in a typical engine oil filter. The AGCO has a nice rubber gasket up top here. So does the Wix. The Baldwin just has this like paper gasket sealing the input. So that's, and I guess what that's doing, that's sealing the flow of oil coming into the filter from mixing with the out, I guess, right? So that's sealing those two compartments. So we'll look at the cartridges now, and I'll pull that one out. So there's the Baldwin. Got the pressure spring there. Then here's the Wix. Oh, look at that Wix. Got the metal cage and everything on it, or metal mesh. Then we got the pressure spring. And then here's the AGCO / Denso. And same thing as far as the pressure spring inside. And no cage here. So that Wix is nice. That is a very well built filter. Look at that baby. Very nice. So the other thing I notice right off the bat here is that there's no pressure relief valve in the Baldwin. There's no pressure relief valve in the Wix. There is, however, a pressure relief valve in the AGCO. There you can see it. Some people will say, well, that's what this spring is for. No, this spring is to press this cartridge up against the housing and just sort of hold it tight there. That is not pressure relief bypass. And you can see that's evident. All three of them have it. Have the spring, but the Denso has a bypass. So right off the bat, I don't think I'd switch filters, man. I do not think I would go with either of these alternate filters. I mean, I was going to cut them open and sort of measure the filter media, but you can basically get the idea. The Baldwin and the AGCO are very, very similar. I could stretch them out. Yeah, maybe I'll do that. And it really looks like the Wix is has way more media than the other two. So yeah, so that's what they look like inside. Let me think about it here, see if I'm going to cut these things open. Got them cut open here. You can see the Baldwin seam is glued together. The wicks is a very heavy crimp there, way heavier than the AGCO, but the AGCO is also a metal crimp to crimp them together. So now I'm going to spread them out, measure them. We'll see what the media square inches, I think is what I measured in, is. Well, I did cut them open. Here they're kind of laying on top of one another. Let's see here. The Baldwin is about 43 inches long. The Wix is about 55, and the AGCO is 69, I'd say. So I'll put the dimensions on the screen here and show you what that equates to in square inches. So I'll try to sum this up real quick. Where does this leave me? I don't know. I'll probably stick with the AGCO, mostly because, I'm worried. I want to make sure that the filter physically fits correctly and has the 3/4 16 thread on the end of it. The Baldwin clearly isn't as well constructed as the AGCO, so I have no way I would use the Baldwin filter, not even close. The Wix filter is constructed way better than the AGCO. Unfortunately, it has the M20 1.5. So does this lead me to maybe think, well, what about the Wix that ends in 1.3 or 7.9 that we talked about earlier that you can also get at NAPA? Maybe that's the right path to go. You're not going to save much money, but it's a really good filter. So, maybe that's something to look at. If you've used either of those filters, post in the comments. I'd like to hear from you. Also, if you have an older model GC 2000 series and you can confirm the M20 1.5 threads, please let me know that let us know that in the comments too. So this is as far as I'm going to take it on the hydraulic filters. We're not going to do a round 2 or anything like that, or at least not yet. So if you have any other questions about this, please post in the comments. I'll answer what I can. Hopefully, I've kind of given a quick overview here on the filters. If you want to know, I guess, a little bit more about these filters and their construction, go back and look at my 2 oil filter videos because they're essentially the same type of properties, minus the anti-drain back, of course, is missing in the hydraulic filter. So thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, and I look forward to catching you next time. Take care.